AI has become a buzzword across industries, and banking, one who's somewhat known to be a laggard when it comes to adopting technology, this time does not seem to want to miss that bus. Which is why this week we're going to be talking about all the numerous way in which banks have been using AI technology in their everyday workflows and in their products to make it a lot more appealing to the new generation as well as to serve their older generations well. Welcome back to my channel. I am Kamalika. I also go by the pseudonym of the FinTech Chronicler, and every week I try doing this interactive session with you all where we talk about one very interesting thing that's happening from the world of FinTech. And I do this on LinkedIn Live. I record those same audios and then publish it online for anyone else who's missed those events. However, this week we kind of hit a small technical glitch. So the entire recording that I had, well, it kind of didn't record when I was doing it live, which is why you see the ambient light around me is a little weird because I had to get up early in the morning and reshoot whatever I spoke the previous day. Now, I will try my best to recapitulate everything that we discussed. Thankfully, I do have my show notes with me, so that won't be that much of an issue. However, the one thing I will be very much missing in this episode, in this recording rather, is the fact that I have not been able to capture those audience interactions that I had with my community because some really great discussions did come up there. Anyways, with that said, I welcome all of you to my channel and thank you very much. I'm pretty much new to this. So if you have any comments on how I can do this better, how I can make the content that I'm putting out a lot more easy to access for all of you, do let me know. I'm always up for learning new tricks. So that's about it. And the way that I've structured this entire episode, we're going to first be talking about some of the types of AI models that are out there. Now, there are a lot of AI models out there, and it can be very confusing from time to time as well. So, we're first going to be talking about the different AI models that are out there, break them into a few buckets, and see what are some of the buckets that banks are using it. So, that will kind of bring us to the next part of the segment, which is some use cases that banks have already started incorporating into their everyday activities, as well as the results that we're seeing from those activities and how AI is actually having an impact in those areas. Then we'll also talk about some of the darker side of AI, which is, the rise of frauds in the financial institution and the impact that those frauds have had on the financial institution. And finally, we'll end it by talking about the human side in this AI world. So that's about what we're going to be talking about. So let's dive right in, starting with the various types of AI models that we have. Now, when I was doing my research, I found like a bunch of different types of AI models that are out there. There were deep learning models, there was supervised, unsupervised learning, random forest, linear regression, a lot of which I learned in the earlier days when I was, kind of doing analytics and learning a lot about statistics and all of that. The natural language processing, reactive AI, explainable AI, neural networks, so on and so forth. But so that all of us don't get overwhelmed, I've kind of bucketed them into two broad buckets. One bucket is the large language model part of it, and the other bucket is the small AI agents, which are very specific and tuned for one particular task. Now, within the large language bucket, also, there are again two categories. One is the traditional generative AI that we are kind of used to. The second bucket is also known as what is commonly known as explainable AI. While both of them work on large language data sets and they have a lot of attributes, that's what differentiates them from the small AI agents. These AI agents typically work with one, or rather, I would say not one, but a set of attributes alone. And they're specific for one particular task. So they're not like a general purpose artificial intelligence, but they're more for one specific task alone. Like, for example, you can set up an AI agent that talks the way that Kamalika talks simply by feeding it all the different kinds of content that Kamalika has put out, and you can start asking it specific questions in whatever she has been talking about, and it'll give you those answers exactly like how you can converse with Kamalika. Something I think I should try experimenting with. But, anyways, that's for another day. All right. So, now that we've covered the different types of AI models that we will be talking about, I thought I will start off with one very humiliating use case of what's really recently happened on AI, which is the rise of frauds using AI. And just quite recently, there was this person in a multinational organization who was duped into sending scamsters close to $25.6 million dollars. And now you must be wondering, it's really silly. How did he not realize that he was being duped, right? To a video conference with this company executive, and they pretended to be the CFO, and they kept giving instructions which the employee kept pushing back, but because he was in a video conference with the CFO and there were a lot of senior people on that call, it was hard for him to say no after a point. However, the biggest reveal was that everybody in that conference, there were 15 people over there in total, everyone was a deep fake in that entire conference. So it was very hard. It was not just that the CFO was being deep faked over there, every other attendee over there was also being deep faked. So you can imagine just how scary this entire experience must have been for the person who got scammed over there. And that kind of raises the question, if AI can create these deepfakes, then it's almost certain that AI can also help combat these deepfakes, right? And pretty sure there are different agencies that are already working on this exact problem statement of leveraging AI to prevent frauds, especially these kinds of deep fakes and AI related impersonations that are happening. So there was this very interesting report from Hyperverge which said that uh, more than 70% of financial services professionals believe that in the next 12 months, frauds, thanks to AI, is going to skyrocket. Headline frauds, identity theft, financial crimes, all of that using AI, machine learning, and deepfakes, it's going to rapidly change the landscape over there. So, and two-thirds of institutions are working on technology solutions to combat these frauds. Now, one of the biggest ways, one of the biggest, this attack that happened, this deepfake that happened, it is known as money muling, where you pretend you basically pretend to be someone and then unwittingly make a legitimate individual become intermediaries in an illegal financial transaction. So one way to kind of combat that is, there are a bunch of AI solutions which not only check for the identity of the person, so they can authenticate the person, but they also use a combination of gestures, facial expression, movements, dynamic words that you have to say to actually validate you against your biometric data to make sure that, yes, you are physically present over there. So that it's called a liveness check. And this can kind of be layered on top of your existing authentication systems in order to verify who you say you are and if you really are the person that you claim to be, and not just a deep fake version of Kamalika sitting in front and talking to all of you on my camera. So that is definitely one very interesting use case that's coming up. There are also a bunch of others. So that a lot of document related frauds are also happening thanks to AI nowadays, because counterfeiting of signature is basically a pattern, right? So it's very easy for AI to recognize that pattern and kind of counterfeit that. So there are a lot of AI technologies for document verification which scrutinize these documents for any kind of inconsistencies or any other anomalies over there. And interestingly, they also, because every time you sign, every time you write a document, even if you're writing the same words on the same piece of paper, researchers found that both times it's not going to be a perfect replica of what you wrote the last time. So that is also something that these AI machines can kind of check to make sure that is this signature a little too perfect to be true, in which case then it will be flagged off again. So these are, I think, some very interesting ways in which AI is being used to combat the problem of rising deepfakes and rising financial frauds that are happening again because of AI. Now, there's another use case that I do certainly want to talk about, which is about how AI is helping in the field of fraud. And this comes straight from Google. Now, HSBC and Google both had done like this very interesting study where they'd run a pilot project back in the early 2023. And this result that you can see is from the results of their fighting money launderers with AI. And they had some very interesting, so they had some very good stats to share first up on this. So 2 to 5% of the global GDP, which is over about 2 trillion a year, gets laundered by the hands of criminals. And stopping this is, I think, one of the biggest prerogatives that banks have, because they don't want to be seen aiding and abetting criminals or illegal transactions, right? So HSBC kind of ran this pilot with Google, and every month on an average, they screened to 1.2 billion transactions for financial crimes. Now, previously, the traditional rule-based systems that every bank follows, not just as HSBC, they're very time consuming. They have high false positives, and the hit rate, if someone has been able to figure out what the rules are, the chances are that they can game your system. So it means that to keep reiterating and rebuilding these models also is a huge cost center to HSBC, which is where AI kind of did help with building a self learning, self improving model over there. And here are some of the results of the study. So they were able to, the AI ML was able to identify 2 to 4 times as much as suspicious activities as the previous rule based system that they had. And not just that, so, like we mentioned, right, false positives is a huge thing for the banking industry. You don't want to stop transactions that are actually legitimate transactions. So, the number of alerts also reduced by 60%, which means that the team at the back end, which is actually investigating fraud, is spending time digging into these frauds and sieving out fraudsters from the system. That's how very powerful this AI model was. And again, some of the stats that they reiterated, in the commercial banking space, they were able to identify twice as many financial crimes and 4 times in the retail space. Of course, because AI is something, these AI models are self learning, you don't have to spend too much time in rebuilding the rules that are there. That just meant that, the time to process kind of goes down over there, and you're able to identify real money laundering patterns and identify erstwhile unknown individuals who are probably helping these criminal networks. So that's like a very interesting case study that was done by last year by HSBC and Google on using AI to combat fraud. Now, bear in mind, these were essentially pattern recognition AI models, which meant that they were presumably not large language models, but under the genre of the specific AI agents that I was previously talking about. But this is where I see a huge potential for small AI agents to kind of scale, start incorporating a lot more large language into it, and make financial services a lot more inclusive. And one of the biggest use cases for that happens to be in the field of lending. Now, just for just to give some stats out of how AI is being, so there was this very interesting paper by the S&P Global, or it's not really being revolutionary. It's just making incremental changes to the process that's there in the system. Okay, so the next use case that we have is indeed a large language model, but it's not necessarily the conversational large language models that we are used to. It's more on the explainable AI side of things, and that is about how AI is being used in the lending space. And there have been some case studies. I will be shortly sharing one of them, which is from Zest AI. It is not the same as Zest Money, a fintech company in India, but it's called Zest AI. And they have built this entire AI lending or underwriting model for mortgages. And they had some very interesting studies to do. However, one thing that I would want to highlight here is that if you've not trained your AI models on the right sets of data, if you've just been training them on the past sanctioned data, the chances are very high that you will still carry forward those biases from your past rules into your current AI models as well. And we've seen a real world example of this playing out back in 2020 when Goldman Sachs had partnered with Apple to come up with Apple credit cards. And they had some very interesting cases out there, by the way. So there was this case where this couple, husband and wife, both had a similar income. In fact, the wife was earning slightly more. But when they applied for the Apple credit card, the husband's credit card got through while the wife's was rejected simply because she was a woman of color. And those are biases, big biases that really existed in our system. They still do continue to exist. If you go back and check out the data from, especially in the US, of customers who have been given a loan, you will find that two out of every five case, uh, the people who have applied from a different background, the chances of them being outright rejected was much higher, and the remaining three times they were given terms where it was not a match to what a Caucasian male person would have gotten the loan on. So that is a very very interesting use case over there. But all right, coming back to Zest AI and how they've been solving for this. So this is an article that was there from the Retail Deep Dive, and Zest AI, which has an AI automated underwriting, it showed that it had helped lenders increase approvals by 49% for Latinos. So Zest AI, which is an AI underwriting company, and it's been operational for some time now, around 4 years now. The study that they conducted in the US showed that they had helped lenders increase approvals by 49% for Latinos, 41% for Black applicants, 40% for women, and 36% for elderly and others, all while holding risk stable. That is some very impressive stats out there, because these are the typical underrepresented segments over there. So if the risk of the system has not gone up by lending to them, which means that the AI was successfully able to identify good customers to lend to, and not just disburse loans to them, but also help in the collection facility, I think that is a great milestone that they've achieved. Now, Zest AI CEO Mike DeVere, he says that their mission has always centered around making financial systems more inclusive, and those statistics that we just provided, definite proof in the pudding over there. Now, some of the places or some of the partners that Zest AI has had have actually sung out their praises. One of them was the chief growth officer at Suncoast Credit Union in the US. And they said that Zest offers the best combination, kind of a tongue twister, but yes, Zest offers the best combination of technology and personalized services that allows them to expand equitable credit access for different communities. All right, with that, now we move into generative AI's use cases in the banking industry. And the first one, no brainer, is how AI is being used to improve customer satisfaction. Now, I recently had the privilege of talking to an AI company which is in the financial services segment, and they're a multimodal AI company. They also claim that you can train their multimodal large language models on your company specific documents as well, which means that they can automate the entire process of your customer call centers. And this will, it will reduce the time and effort that it takes for resolving customer issues that are there. These AI agents can be present round the clock, so you have better customer service at the time of the problem that they face. The number of times that these AI agents redirect to a real human, they had reduced it. They'd given me some statistics. I'm not able to recollect at the moment, but it was a significant drop in the previous numbers, where AI agents were simply collecting a bunch of initial information and simply passing it on to a human. They were able to reduce that, which means that these AI call service agents were able to resolve consumer complaints. And they were able to do this by being trained on past customer interactions. So these large language models were able to read and understand what the customers were going to say, even if it's not a part of the script that was presented to them. And B, by reading the company's policy documents. So it was also trained on the compliance aspect of things as well. So it's not like it's giving financial advice or it's trying to solve your problem in a way that's not compliant. So that is on the multimodal aspect. Also, as I start thinking more about this, I think the natural extension of these kinds of large language models would be when they start conversing with us in our native language and they're able to understand our native accents. Like, I know I have a slightly more South Indian sort of an accent, which becomes a lot more pronounced, especially when I moved out of Chennai. But imagine if the AI agent was able to understand my accent, and also respond back to me in my accent. If I am a worried customer, I've done a financial transaction that's not gone through. It was a large sum transaction, and I'm super worried. But if the AI agent is able to talk to me in my own language, imagine just how much more I'm going to trust, that particular bank or institution over there. So that is also like a very interesting use case. I would obviously wait for results from this said company before I can make it public over there and see how has it really improved the customer satisfaction score out there. That would be really interesting to look into. And that brings us to one of the last segments of this section today, which is explainable AI in banking and financial services. We did touch upon it slightly when we were talking about multimodal, but I will kind of dive a little more into it. Now, imagine that you are someone who's new to financial services, you're a first time user of financial services. These terms and conditions that you're being made to sign, they're very overwhelming. I mean, I've been in the fintech and financial services space for 12 years now, and I still find them complicated at times. Not just complicated, they're outright boring a lot of the times. So, how can we expect someone who's new to financial services to actually read through, understand what it's happening, and then opt in for it? I mean, if they're being given a loan, they probably really need it, and they have that urgency of time over there, that it's quite easy for money lenders and institutions to kind of misuse, their desperation over there. This is where explainable AI comes into the play, because now what these explainable AI models do, they have a thorough understanding of the entire policy, the entire terms and condition, the regulatory aspects, the compliance, and what it means for the end consumers. So all the end consumer has to do is the AI just explains all of that in a very rudimentary fashion without any jargon to the user, and they can just accept or reject the terms that they're being presented. If they feel comfortable with what they've been explained in a very layman sort of a language, then they can accept it. If they don't feel comfortable, then they can choose to not accept those terms and go somewhere else. Now, that I think is going to be the biggest use case for AI. And this is something I feel very, very passionate about, which is on financial literacy at the time of disbursing your financial services. That's one of the biggest problems that we face today. It's not just in identifying, the customers who've been underserved. I think uh, read any report from any venture capital or from any startup, so anyone in the startup ecosystem, they'll tell you what a huge potential that is there, underpenetrated, underserved, unserved in India. So I don't think we have to look around too much to identify these unserved customers. The maid in your house, the driver who drives you to work, the bhaiya on the road who sells me dosas every night, all of them are underserved. It's not too hard to get them into the financial service sector, but the reason is that it may not always be on terms that are favorable to them. Now, with explainable AI and the multimodal aspect of AI coming into these large language models coming into play, it's going to become that much more easier for them to understand their rights and make sure that they are taking those financial services on their terms. Now, that is it for this session. Of course, I am unfortunately not able to include the discussions that I had, which wove around, how do I figure out if the AI agent I'm talking to on phone is actually a person or an AI, and does it really matter if it's a person or not? Two, we also went on to discussing about mortgages and how AI in mortgages can play a big role over there. All of that, unfortunately, I'm not able to do right now, but the next time I'm going to make sure technology is on my side before I start off. And hopefully, you guys will be able to see the full episode. And next week, we're going to be talking about what's happening with the craziest news that's come out, which is Visa and MasterCard settling an antitrust case in the US and what that means for customers worldwide. We will get into the entire business model of Visa and MasterCard and how this might probably impact end customers and credit card rewards especially. Until next time, I hope if you've stayed for so long, really thank you so much, means a lot to me, and I will definitely look forward to your feedback on what I can do to improve. I know that the setup was not ideal today because I had to do it early in the morning before I get to work. But I promise the next time I'm going to incorporate all of your suggestions and make sure that this looks a lot more professional. Till next time, see you all. Bye.